The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 105.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Daniel Spulber, author of The Innovative Entrepreneur. Welcome, Dan, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thanks very much, Wade. It's great to be with you today.
Before we dive into the book, will you take just a moment to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about you personally?
Yes, of course. I'm a professor at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University here in Evanston, Illinois. I'm an economist, and I've been teaching entrepreneurship and all kinds of topics for a long time. And so this is a topic near and dear to my heart. Great.
So, Dan, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And now let's jump right into your book, The Innovative Entrepreneur, which is not that old. It was just made available for purchase back in June of 2014. And we're going to move quickly, but we're going to cover the top questions that are combined to both the listener/reader would like to get answered. And the first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing The Innovative Entrepreneur?
Well, Wade, entrepreneurs are so important because they provide the creativity, the drive, the initiative that drives our economy forward. They create new firms, they bring new technologies to market. In fact, they transform entire industries. And I wanted to make sure that entrepreneurs themselves had a better understanding of the major contributions that they're making to our society. And also, I wanted public policy makers and experts in the field to have a better understanding of what entrepreneurship is and what it means to our country.
So what would you say? There's so many, but we talk about it all the time. There's so many books that come out every single month that can try and steal an entrepreneur's time. So this is an opportunity for you to differentiate. So what makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
Yes, this book is very different from others because it is an attempt to push forward the frontiers of economics on the entrepreneur. Now, that may not be of interest to everybody, but let me tell you why I came to write this book. You may not believe it, and a lot of entrepreneurs and other listeners out there won't believe it, but a lot of experts who do research on entrepreneurs really don't think that entrepreneurs are that important. They think that big established firms count more, that they have an advantage over entrepreneurs, that they can do the innovation. They say that established firms have all the resources. They have access to customers, they have the suppliers, they have access to finance, they've got R&D. So who needs entrepreneurs? And that, believe it or not, that's the prevailing view out there in academia, and it's affecting public policy circles as well. My book tries to show a little bit about why entrepreneurs are so important to our country, what they contribute, and all along the way, I think it yields some insights that may be helpful to individual entrepreneurs.
So how do you suggest the reader engage with your book? Is this one they can jump in and out of as they need information, or should they really start and finish all the way through?
Well, I think that they can think of the book as a reference work, or they can try and catch some of the highlights. Let me give you an idea of what it was that I was trying to do with this book. The book is organized around 5 major questions, and I thought it would be easier if I just, take them one at a time. The first big question that a lot of people have asked is what I call the question of entrepreneurial motivation. In other words, why do individuals choose to become innovative entrepreneurs? Not only why do they become entrepreneurs, but why do they become innovative entrepreneurs? There's a difference. Entrepreneurs have choices. Individuals have other possibilities for their time. They may have a day job. They may have other careers in progress. And they have to make a conscious decision. They have to weigh the returns and rewards of their careers against the returns and rewards of choosing to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have other choices. They may have some money that they could make investments with or pursue an education. They have to make a decision whether they want to invest that money in the startup venture. And perhaps most importantly, if they decide to become entrepreneurs, they face another choice, and that is, should I be what we call a replicative entrepreneur, just kind of start a business that's similar to other businesses? Or should I pursue innovative entrepreneurship? Should I take on the burdens and struggle of doing something completely new? And one of the things I point out as a beginning of an answer to this important question about motivation is that I think individuals tend to make these choices in the context of what we in economics call the life cycle. In other words, entrepreneurship is a way to build personal assets for the future, of course, while hopefully doing what you love to do. And so one way of understanding the entrepreneurship decision is not as a snapshot, but it's a major decision that falls within your life cycle decisions. In other words, savings and buying a house and preparing for the working life and even preparing for retirement. So it's part of that big arc of the individual's life. And I think this is the first issue of motivation. It's important because people always ask, why do they do it? And you would not believe it, but many people think entrepreneurs have to be a little bit crazy. That may be true, but I think also entrepreneurs are good planners and they have a long-term vision. And that's part of the understanding that guides them as they make this decision to be an entrepreneur and then, if possible, to be an innovative entrepreneur. All right, that's the first question. The second question is what I call the question of innovative advantage, and that is, why does it seem that entrepreneurs are better at innovating than existing firms? And this is important because a lot of people think, hey, maybe we don't need them. Big firms could do all the innovating. It's true that big firms can be innovative. They have labs, they have access to financial capital, they've got customers. But what we're interested in is not necessarily Walmart, but what we're interested in the next Walmart, the next Amazon, the next eBay, the next Google, the next McDonald's. And then the question is, why do we need entrepreneurs? Can't the existing firms do it all? And I try to answer that in my book. One of the main things is that existing firms are faced with all kinds of inertia. And it's not just that managers are short-sighted or something like that, but rather the existing firm has to run its existing business. And it's very hard to change directions, particularly for big companies. But the entrepreneur has an advantage. And that advantage is the key to my book, really. The advantage is that the entrepreneur is not a big organization. It's not even a small organization. They're often an individual. And as an individual, they've got the initiative. And that initiative, that personal decision, can overcome any kind of inertia. A big firm is bound by its existing business, but the individual can take the risk, be creative, move forward in a way that's so hard for the big firms. And this is one of the key reasons why we need the entrepreneur. They bring change because they've got initiative and they can overcome the inertia that existing firms face. So that's the second question of innovative advantage. The third question my book talks about is competitive pressures. And that is, does competition help or hurt innovation? A lot of people are worried that too much competition hurts innovation, but entrepreneurs know that they're going to face challenges from other entrepreneurs, from existing firms, and so on. And I think it's really important to have competitive pressures. It's going to let in the newcomers, and it's going to poke the existing firms too. I'm going to come back to that. Next is number 4, the question of creative destruction. This is a big deal, and I think every entrepreneur has thought about this. Suppose you have a new idea. It could be a new technology, a new business method, it could be a new production method. new product. Why not just sell out? Why not just sell that idea to a big corporation and just be done with it? Why do it yourself? Why go on and do it yourself? So the book tries to answer this important question. Why do we see creative destruction? Why not just sell out, avoid the competition? Why instead do entrepreneurs take that risky decision, develop the new product, develop the new process, set up their own firm, and go out and fight with existing industry? So there are a number of reasons for this. One is that I think often it's very difficult to sell or license your idea to the existing firm. They don't understand it. They might steal it. Who knows? It's very hard to make that deal. You may be much better off doing it yourself. Another is that often the person who comes up with the idea has the best way of realizing it. So even though you might cash out, you might do much better doing it yourself. So even though that big existing firm that you're going to compete with has all the suppliers and customers and financial capital and R&D labs and so on, you may still be able to beat them and do better than selling out to them because you know best what your idea is worth and how to realize that idea. And finally, there's a lot of room for experimentation out there. And the individual entrepreneur, being an individual, can do that experiment kind of at a small scale. The existing firm can't do it all. And so you can beat them. You can do it better yourself than selling out. And I have one more question to answer, and then get some of your thoughts about it. But the final question, the fifth one, is what I call the question of the wealth of nations. A reference there to Adam Smith's famous book. And that is, how do entrepreneurs affect the economy? How do they bring economic prosperity, economic growth? This is really important because I think we've forgotten that. We've gotten away from that. Right now, big companies have a grip on regulation, and they have a big influence with the government. And essentially, it's made it harder and harder for the little guy, the startup, to get going. And so regulations tend to favor big firms, and tax rates tend to penalize individual success, and so on. So understanding the important contribution that entrepreneurs make to the economy, first of all, will help motivate entrepreneurs. But second, will shed a little bit of light on the public policies that we need to open the door to startups. Because without startups, we will not have the great successes of the future. We won't have as much technological change. We won't have the industry transformation that entrepreneurs bring. So that's a very quick overview of the big 5 questions that my book tries to address.
Thank you for taking us through that. And now I'm going to ask you to take it a step further. And that's, if the reader can only take away one concept, principle, or action item out of your entire book, everything you just discussed with us, those 5 questions, what would you want that to be?
I'd say the number one thing I'd like the reader to take away is that innovation is a choice. Now, it's not guaranteed that you're going to have the new ideas, the new techniques, the new product, and there's no guarantee of success, but it's a choice if you can do it. In other words, first you have to choose, should I be an entrepreneur? Do I have what it takes to set up that new firm? But then you have the choice, should I do it in a way that's innovative? Should I bring something new to the marketplace? And of course, you have to weigh the alternatives. Is it worth it? The challenges are high. The rewards can be high as well. But innovation is a choice, and you have to make that choice if that's the outcome you're seeking.
Perfect. You might have just answered this because I pulled a quote out of that. But do you have a favorite quote from your book?
I do. There's a great phrase that's due to Friedrich Hayek, and he talks about the man on the spot, what he calls the man on the spot, or you could say the man or woman on the spot. His point is that people know a lot more about their own situation than other people. Maybe they know more than friends, relatives, or businesses or the government, but they know more about their own personal needs and situation than anybody else. Entrepreneurs make such a great contribution to the economy because they're individuals, because they are the man on the spot. They know more about their own situation and they know more about what's going on right around them. And so they have a better grip on maybe customers they interact with or inventors they interact with or their own ideas that they might develop into a company. So I like to say that the innovative entrepreneur is the man on the spot.
Very good. And you and I were talking previously, I guess, before we jumped on the interview about how our love for books, and that's what this next question is going to be all about. And that's, if there's only one book that you could recommend to our audience based on the way that it's impacted your life and created a paradigm shift, which book would you recommend?
Well, I recommend, and again, I found it to be a very important book for me personally, and that's Milton Friedman's book, Free to Choose. The book reminds us that freedom of choice is key to our society. It's the basis of liberty. And it's also important for the innovative entrepreneur. As long as they're free to choose, they will create the next success stories, the next eBay or the next Amazon. And it all depends on being free to choose. And also reminds entrepreneurs that their freedom of choice is very important. It's what allows them to choose whether to set up a new firm and also whether or not to be innovative. So I guess I'd pick Free to Choose.
Excellent. We haven't had that one referenced just yet. So Dan, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to get not only more information on you, but also your book, The Innovative Entrepreneur?
I think the best thing is, find it on Amazon. You'll see some of my other books, and it'll introduce you a little bit to what I do. And, I think that's the best way.
Perfect. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book with us.
It's been a great pleasure, Wade. It's a lot of fun talking to you. And I think this Entrepreneur's Library idea is a great one, very creative. Nice to be a part of it.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Dan or his book, The Innovative Entrepreneur, just visit our show notes at the elpodcast.com. And you'll also have an opportunity to win his book if you become a VIP.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.